Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about open source and contributing. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Fredrik, do you feel that contributing to open source projects is a great way to enhance your skills? And the short answer is yes, absolutely. But that also requires you to have the skills to be able to contribute to an open source project. Now, let me explain that a little bit. You see, what's nice about doing open source type of work is that it is probably, for someone who's never worked as a professional software developer, the closest thing that you will get to doing professional grade work, for sure. It has all the elements of the technical aspect of delivering software. Basically what you're doing is the same sort of thing at work with more steps. When you're doing it in a professional environment with companies and so forth, there are differences, and these differences are of course not part of doing open source work necessarily, but everything from pull requests and code reviews and collaboration and so forth may or may not take place when you're working with open source, which is great. So if you're a complete beginner or some person who has never actually worked in a professional IT company, this will be a very good first step. It would be. It's definitely something you can try out to actually get a feel for how a work process will work. Now, the only thing you should consider, I think, here is, are you ready to actually contribute to a real open source project? Because just because you're in open source, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will get exposure to this sort of work process. There are different ranges and complexity levels and, of course, communities to each of these open source projects. Now, if, let's say for the sake of argument, that you're a very fresh developer, you've pretty much just kind of learned the ropes, odds are that you will find it maybe a little bit hard to contribute to one of the serious projects, like the really high profile ones, because simply put, you don't have the coding skills to do so. And of course, changing a comment here and there, adding documentation, is a very useful thing, of course, and a lot of communities in open source, of course, appreciate that sort of help. But it's not going to technically evolve you as much. It might be a very good start to just get to know people and so forth, but what you really want is to, of course, write software. And that's the second part of that, where the differences between projects also is something to consider here. Because if you're contributing to like a very small open source project that doesn't have all that many maintainers, or maybe doesn't really have, it's not a very high profile project, they don't have any work processes and so forth, odds are that you will contribute and you will get some exposure and you'll be able to do something. So I mean, it's still a benefit to you if you don't have any of this knowledge, but it may not be such a good reflection of how you're actually going to work when you work in the industry. On the other hand, if you go and work together with, say, some of the contributors at the bigger project, ideally what you want is to have an open source project where you have real professionals maintaining it, and they actually run the contributors list, or they contribute the contributions as if it was just another company, where you have people who have processes and they have quality standards and they have all this good stuff that helps keep up the quality of the project with testing and all of this stuff. Then that's a very good thing. That's pretty much what you want. You want to find an open source project that is a little bit more serious and has contributors that actually are professional workers, that actually know how a real IT company works and how we deliver software and so forth. Because most IT companies have a very similar process when they're doing work. So what I want you to take away from this is that contributing to open source projects to enhance your skills is absolutely something you can do. It's a great pastime, and it's something that you can definitely evolve your skills quite a lot through. But I suggest that you have a look at making sure, at least, that the projects that you are contributing to are a little bit more serious. Ideally, you want the people who are the main contributors or the administrators of that project to be real industry professionals, people who know how to set up like CI pipelines, and they know the value of code reviews, they know the value of unit testing, like they know, like, because this is something they do every single day, and this open source project is something that reflects their already existing experience. Because if you don't do that sort of thing, odds are that you might not actually get to know all of these tiny little things that are around software. And although it's great that you enhance your coding skills, these sorts of things are also fairly important, I would say. So make sure that you find the right project, and also make sure that you're actually accepted to work on that project, because if you don't know anything about coding, the best thing you can pretty much do is to help add documentation to code. And maybe that's also a good thing, because, you know, in order to document code, then you need to understand it, and then maybe you can get some knowledge sharing with the people who actually know what the code does, and then you simply write in the documentation. So you can absolutely contribute there as well, but ideally you should focus on enhancing your coding skills. Have a great day.